Good morning. This is the Eager Beaver Show.
You are listening to a True North Eager Beaver Media Incorporated podcast. True North Eager Beaver podcasts are proudly brought to you by our founding sponsors, the Miss V Mysteries from Corvid Moon Publishing, your source for science fiction, fantasy, and cozy mysteries featuring a broad diversity of characters. PsychicTarot.ca, book your tarot reading and unlock your spiritual journey. And the Pepper Master, hot pepper sauces made from farm-fresh ingredients to thrill your taste buds and expand your mind. Well, good afternoon and hello, kids and cubs, and welcome to Season 5 and episode number 833 of the Daily Beaver Morning Show. Oh, Canada, always 100% Canadian. Technically, I guess the Daily Beaver afternoon show today, but you know, that's okay. I am your host, the Eager Beaver, pronounce he, him, hey, Mr. Beaver, eh? And today, recording day is Monday, January 19th, 2026. It's a nice day here at the Beaver Lodge, but we do have a little bit of snow falling. So there'll be more shoveling to do, but that's okay. It's something I actually rather enjoy. So that will be absolutely fine by me. Although my arms may not be able to take it because I got my COVID and flu shots yesterday because, I will be taking a plane and when I go on vacation. So I wanted to make sure that everything there was tickety boo, as they say. And I'm feeling it a little bit at the moment, which is I was waiting for everyone in the studio and trying to make the chat function, and the chat wasn't functioning and I couldn't understand why. So I went to the YouTube page and it's like, I'm over here. There's just a little weirdness going on. And then it's like I look at the top left-hand corner and it says live with Restream January 19th. And because I didn't give the show a title, I just put the date and said that the show would be delayed. I saw January 19th, so I thought I was in the show that I programmed, and turns out I wasn't. So I was in a room waiting for people that would have never arrived. So a little loopy, but hey, feeling good. A big thank you goes to our podcast's founding sponsors, the Pepper Master, the Miss V Mysteries from Corvid Moon Publishing, and PsychicTarot.ca. And let's see, how's your mental health today? Mine is doing okay. Mr. Grizzly is I believe he recently just sent me something. I don't know if I have the phone with me. I do. Oh, yes, I do. That he may have just landed because he got delayed in Toronto, I believe, for the night. So I'm just going to take a look at that and give you a Mr. Grizzly update here. Arrived late last night, checked into the hotel at 1 a.m. Oh, boy. So that's an adventure right there. So, yes, the Grizzly has landed. So that's some good stuff there. As well, so I'm sure he's feeling better. And me, I'm doing well. Yeah. Like I said, feeling a little funny, like you do sometimes after you get one of those shots. So I'm a little slower up here today, and I am going to lie down after I finish this. But my spirits are good. And I also thank you for your indulgence because this morning I had a scheduling thing as we're getting closer and closer to leaving for vacation. Time for certain things is at a premium. So I had to have something today that was at the same time, or that would have allowed me to do only about like 25 minutes of show this morning before I would have to go. So I figured rather than just do that, I would schedule it a little later. So thank you so much for your indulgence and for joining us uh, this afternoon. Well, let's see. Uh, how to start, man? It's Prime Minister Mark Carney is still on his trip. We stopped in China. He stopped in Qatar. Things appear to have gone well in both places. He's on his way to Davos, Switzerland for the WEF, the World Economic Forum. Our sympathies in advance to anyone in our audience and out there who happens to be Jewish, because there is going to be a lot of anti WEF talk that is founded in tropes that are inherently anti Semitic. And you're going to have to hear that over and over and over and over again and be exposed to it on social media and all that kind of stuff. Um, so just know we feel you. It's ugh. Anyway, they will do what they will do. But the conservative reaction to everything that has come down has been a little interesting. And even the Ontario NDP reaction, if you saw Mr. Grizzly's growl, I believe on Friday, he had he was a bit confused by Merritt Stiles' reaction, and I am too. So maybe we will touch on that, or I mean, I guess we can start with that. Why not? Since we're talking about it already. We don't need no order. All right. Um, so yeah, Merritt Stiles, um, upon learning that the agreement was going to allow 49,000 EVs from China to be sold, which is about, 3% of our annual auto sales, and was the amount that was being sold in Canada around 2023. So going back to that amount, it's going to go up to 70,000 at one point, I guess, at the end of this part of the agreement. And as well, it seems that there is something, we keep on hearing more and more about it, in that agreement that is going to lead to either that company opening a manufacturing company here, or the other version I've been hearing, and I'm not quite sure which it is that they will be sharing expertise with us so that we can start a Canadian company of some kind in this market. So I'm hearing both. I'm not sure which it is specifically, but I've heard talk about both over the course of the weekend. Um, so you have Merritt Stiles here asking questions like, where was the Premier of Ontario when Mark Carney was selling out Ontario's auto sector? Not at the table, not fit for Premier. So she's Doug Ford and Merritt Stiles, right, are both playing the card that they are unhappy with the decision with regard to the EVs. Um, and I found that interesting that they were playing on the same terrain, because for Merritt Stiles, I would have thought that another path was that, given there is this part in the agreement that seems to be talking about some type of investment in manufacturing in Canada within about 3 years of some kind, that this would be a great path to call for campaign on ensuring, for example, that these will not just be robots coming in and doing the assembly, that these will be good paying union jobs, as the saying goes. But she's going down the same path. And it seems that the reason she's going down the same path is that she's playing on Doug Ford, basically saying that he thought that this was a knee-jerk reaction and that there wasn't enough consultation. Well, since Mark Carney has become prime minister, right? Doug Ford and he have been getting along relatively well. So, um, aside for the ad, of course, where Doug Ford, apparently the prime minister asked Doug Ford not to place the ad, and Doug Ford did it anyway. Um, Not sure if there's a little bit of payback. I would assume not, because the prime minister said that he doesn't play games, but one could gossip about that type of thing. Um, but in this particular case, um, if Doug Ford himself is admitting to have been pretty much blindsided, given how close they are, one would have to wonder how this is possible. How could this possibly have happened? How could this deal possibly have been made that affects the auto sector, very key to Ontario, under your nose, and you not know about it? Where were you? What were you doing? Why were you not in a room prior to that happening? It's an interesting choice. It's an interesting choice. Um, I see the strategy behind it, but it is a pretty interesting choice. um, because I thought the path of future job creation, and fighting hard to ensure that again we have good paying union jobs would have been the natural path. But it seems she may have seen an opening in the way that Doug Ford answered that question. Now, I mean, with Doug Ford claiming that something was a knee jerk and not well thought out, um, part of me thinks, well, sir, we could very well defer to your deep and profound expertise in knee jerk reactions and things that are not particularly well thought out. How about a little sip right there? Hmm? Um, oh man, gee. Um, but the other thing, right, is in his reaction, he went to the place where he's calling EVs from China spy cars, which is very much mimicking. I was trying to say mirroring and mimicking at the same time, and it didn't work. um, but yeah, mirroring some MAGA talk with regards to that. Um, that's pretty lazy, and it's that pressing that fear button again. Be afraid, be afraid, be afraid, and we have social media accounts, we have cell phones, or credit card transactions, uh, our browser history. I mean, there's a lot of information about us out there that's looking, it's like these cars more than other cars. Teslas that are made in China, are they any more or less spy cars than these? It just seems so facile. Other people saying, if you buy these cars, you won't be able to drive them in the United States. They'll be blocked somehow or whatnot. And I'm thinking, well, yeah, maybe for some of us that could be an issue, but for those of us who would be most likely to buy an electric car, I have a feeling that not being able to go to the United States with it is not particularly a disincentive, and b- probably not something that people are going to feel they're missing out on. Maybe, perhaps. the demographic that would still want to drive to the United States and the demographic that would buy an electric vehicle, I'm not sure how much they overlap on the Venn diagram. Just saying. I could be wrong. I would be happy to be pleasantly surprised. I I just doubt. I doubt. um yeah, exactly. Kid playing with 3D. It might be a selling point. Kid Linda not being able to go to the US is a feature, not a bug. Oh, ouch. Kid Elaine, don't forget smartwatches. Indeed. Indeed. Kit PNC bio. Doug doesn't know anything about any jerk reactions. That's why he spent 5 minutes pouring out a bottle of Crown Royal very, very slowly in the least dramatic way possible. And that's why, kits and cubs, if you actually had a good comms department, somebody would have tested that first. That's how you know he was freelancing. Kid calling something a spy car just makes it sound that much cooler. Ah, naughty, naughty. Yeah, yeah, probably. Um, so yeah, um, it's yeah, it was a bit of a meltdown. I believe I might have here a little bit of Doug Ford's commentary here. So just so I can put it right here into the record. Let's get some volume and let's try. Oh, can we make it big? Okay.
It's going to hurt every single auto manufacturer, every single supply chain that has anything to do with the auto sector. This was not thought out properly. It wasn't consulted. It was a knee-jerk reaction as far as I'm concerned. And this is going to be a big, big problem. It's going
This is going to be a big, big problem. Who else talks like that? Yeah. So I can't help but notice that Scott Moe was directly in the room at the table. And Doug Ford is claiming he had no idea this was happening. I can understand why Merritt Stiles would be asking, where were you when Carney sold out the auto sector if you have to? But the problem is that Merritt Stiles has to adopt the position that Mark Carney sold out the auto sector in order to make that work. And that's the part I'm not understanding. Not understanding. I mean, it may be politically very effective because strategically, Merritt Stiles might be saying, well, if Doug Ford is saying it and Doug Ford has so many people voting for him who believe that, if I say it too, but then turn around and say, well, whose damn fault is it that that happened? How could this have possibly happened under your watch? It does make it such that people who would vote progressive conservative don't get turned off at the get-go um, by the fact that she's taking a different position on whether or not this is a risk dealing with China in this way. And if that makes people pay attention to her a little bit because they're not off put by that message, she's actually saying what they believe, but then turning the table on Doug, it could actually be an effective line of attack if it's done with discipline. And it makes it such that the more that Doug keeps on claiming that something terrible is going on, the more she gets to stick it to him and twist the knife. But it does mean that she has to, in order to be consistent, to say that this is a deal that sells out the auto sector. That might push. That might be hard to pass the credibility test. In addition, BYD is already has a toehold in Canada, just not so much in everyday vehicles, but buses and other types of electric vehicles. They're definitely already present and contributing to the market here. So it's there's been a lot of characterizing this as aligning ourselves with China. It's like we're not aligning ourselves with China. We are two trading nations who've decided that there are certain areas of commerce that we will and others that we won't do trade in, and the ones that we will, we have a roadmap. I'm not sure what exactly the problem is, right? The question here is not, do we do more trade with China? Do we do more trade with India? Do we do more trade with countries in the Middle East? Do we do more trade with countries to whom we ascribe certain behaviors that we don't really, sign on to? Yes, because you don't have to like a country to do business with it, right? If there's other strategic and political interests to not do business with one country or to choose a supplier from one country rather than another, Grippins, then of course, you might want to do so. But we are going to trade with these nations. And if indeed we are becoming this multipolar world, where there would be 4 or 5 poles. I heard somebody talking about, when we're talking about that whole Greenland thing when it comes to NATO, says the United States without NATO, rather than NATO without the United States. But the United States without NATO is no longer a superpower, it's just a major power. So if we go into the world with like 4 or 5 major powers, then we're going to have to dance with all of them somewhat. But the real work is, right? And at the moment, given that we're trying to make the biggest chunks as much as we can going to the biggest economies first, seems like a pretty, if you're going to be very effective, going to China and coming back with about $7 billion in trade agreements, might take less work if you're trying to get results faster than trying to drum up $7 billion from 6 or 7 smaller countries in total, right? So there's the order in which we are going to the countries probably matters. Indonesia, 4th largest, that may be important. And now we're doing the ASEAN bloc and Thailand and Philippines and that. And we're talking to other groups. We're trying to bring the TPP bloc and the CETA bloc together and all that kind of stuff. But all of these negotiations and all of this business put together, right, is with the view of trying to attract $1 trillion of new economic activity, I guess, to Canada over the next 5 years, and to double our exports to non-US countries. Probably, I'm thinking it's within that same period of time, if I'm not mistaken. Not sure if that one's a shorter timeline. But there's a roadmap where we're going to some specific places, right? There are specific targets we are trying to hit. So it doesn't surprise me, right? Brazil is also another large country, right, with a significant economy. So it's, and then with the UAE and Qatar, we're talking about two countries that have sovereign wealth funds that are very plentiful. So there is a strategy in the order of the nations that he's hitting to try to get the most, right? The biggest chunks first. So that hopefully things are in place if ever, a big hit comes. We will have done, we will have done what we needed to do to try to get some big chunks of activity in at once to try and cushion the blow of some kind. So that, I see and I'm okay with. How would you put it? But with the conservatives, we're having a situation, and then I'm talking like more broadly, the federal conservatives, because Doug Ford had a reaction, and then Scott Moe, who was at the table, clearly has a completely different reaction. It's kind of weird, actually, when you think about it, right? Because we have Daniel Smith in Alberta, who's all giddy about the MOU, and we have Scott Moe, who's all happy about the progress made with canola. We have Wab Kinew, who's being an incredibly good statesman when he's talking about these issues, because he's happy for the canola. Not so happy that pork wasn't mentioned in this one. Canola oil as well was not mentioned. So the tariffs on those are both still high. And Wab Kinew was able to do the, sort of like we're happy for canola and we're happy for the people in Saskatchewan. We have some thoughts definitely for the people out in Ontario because, they've been taking some hits, but yes, overall, this seems to be good. And, but where, where things stand for us, like this, we need some action on pork. We do. So he was able, to take the good parts, right? Mention where it is that work still needed to be done and was firm about that. Was able to be happy for fellow Canadians in another province that have some pressure removed off them, show concern for Canadians in another province who might be a little more worried as a result of this. He was able to do it all, right? And then the guy can speak French too. Come and tell me he's not running for prime minister one day. Man is very good. It's very, very, very good. And of course, Scott Moe in Saskatchewan, as we were mentioning, liking what he sees, right? Speaking about it, speaking positively, giving interviews, it's just really interesting, again, to see how things are lining up, and it's kind of interesting because I've been hearing the discussion, what is in it for Mark Carney electorally, because it's he's not. How many more votes is he going to get in Alberta, really, because he signed that MOU? How many votes is he going to get more in Saskatchewan, really, because the canola tariffs came up, right? There's the belief is that the view out there is so entrenched that it doesn't matter what you do, right? They'll still vote for the other guy. And, if people do buy Doug Ford's folksy thing about spy cars and everything's about to come to an end, oh my God, right? Well, there are more seats that are flippable in Ontario, So it is something that could be risky. Um, with Doug Ford kind of losing it that way, um, you had, of course, the online shorts pants brigade for Pierre Poilièvre, uh, all jumping on that. And it's like, oh, maybe you should have voted for Poilièvre, or maybe you should have supported Poilièvre then, and all that kind of stuff, right? Because we know that Doug Ford and Pierre Poilièvre can't stand each other. This Corey Tenike, Doug Ford's organizer, I guess, for lack of a better word, also not much love. So, in the conservative camps, where we're talking about, um, again, the only people that they hate more than progressives or liberals is each other. They've been going at each other for this as well. Um, Pierre was right. Pierre was right. All that kind of stuff, and whatever. Um, hmm. Just gather my thoughts here. Um, and then we started hearing from people more broadly in the media. Um, and some of it was in reaction to what Pierre Poilievre had to say about it. Um, and Pierre Poilievre kind of stepped in it two ways, because there was the whole position with regard to the EVs, and then there was the whole position on Greenland, which was a whole other kettle of fish. And they both sort of came out relatively at the same time, for all intents and purposes, that he's been getting a lot of blast over the course of the weekend. So, but the thing is that this new thing came along, and Pierre, of course, and the conservatives cannot um, at all, acknowledge that something good has happened. So for Pierre Poilievre, um, we get, rather than congratulating the prime minister on whatever achievement, um, writes, Prime Minister Carney must explain how he has gone from saying China was Canada's biggest security threat before the election to announcing a strategic partnership with Beijing after the election. His agreement will allow 50,000 EVs onto our streets, jeopardizing our security and auto jobs. This follows him breaking his promise to negotiate a win and get a deal with the US by last July. Despite giving $1 billion taxpayer loan for Beijing to build our ships, there is no guarantee that tariffs on canola and other Canadian goods will permanently, immediately, or completely be eliminated. Meanwhile, Canadian pork farmers will still keep paying the 25% tariff. It's time for Canadians to have a government that will put our country first and protect our security, our jobs, and our sovereignty. I can't even imagine Pierre would have gotten into a room with Xi Jinping, unless Xi Jinping wanted to have Pierre for lunch. Or, no, lunch. Who am I kidding? An amuse-bouche. Oh, man. Yeah. Um, Beijing, as we keep on saying, moves very slowly diplomatically. Um, there are tariffs that are completely eliminated, yes, for this year only, but that's, of course, this thing is going to be reviewed if it goes well, of course, right? Beijing always wants to keep uh, the mechanism there to slap something else on if, things don't go awry and don't go right. That's not new. Yes, there are not tariffs off of everything, but it is a significant win, and he can't acknowledge it. So it's like, basically, it's not perfect. You didn't make them all go away on the first shot, so it's no good. Yeah, he's still going on about the $1 billion loan to build the ships for British Columbia, I think ferries and stuff. But doesn't mention from whom else or where else we could get them at similar price and on time, because not having given the loan would have meant not having the ships on time, and then all the people who use them, how do they live? These complaints are not reality based. At some point, you got to buy from someone. And if Pierre really wants them to be built here, then we have to build a whole shipyard to build them first before we start building them. This does not make sense. But he can't let go of it. So it's China bad, China bad, China bad, China bad, China bad. We're aligning with China. We're cozying up to China. We're trading. We're trading. China is our second largest economic partner, and about 3% of our trade is with China. We can increase that to 4, 5, or 6 as we try to increase with everyone else around the world, and not be coupled or cozied up or whatever verb you want with China. Like, absolutely, it's light your hair on fire and run around the room time, yelling, be afraid, be afraid, be afraid, because conservatives need you to be afraid. It's the only way their shtick works. They need you to be afraid, to fear everything. And then Pierre gets all snarky, of course. Which Mark Carney was right? A, pre-election Carney, who said the biggest threat to Canada is China, or B, post-election Carney, who signs a strategic partnership with Beijing for a new world order? Ugh. I'm starting to wonder if the Prime Minister is directly trolling them with that so that they can lose their minds. But I would still use another term. But that's a trick question, clearly, because both are right. Prior to the election, the biggest security threat was indeed China. But now that the United States has done what it's done in Venezuela and is talking the way it's talking about Greenland, and has already let us know that he wants us to be his cherished. Not sure that word means what he thinks it means. 51st state. Yeah. You know what? Someone right now at this present moment is way more an existential threat to us than is China. Even public opinion polling notes that Canadians feel that. Within its sphere and within its whatever China believes, China tends to act rationally. The United States, we have no idea. We have no idea what the hell's coming. And if we're looking at this Greenland thing, all of a sudden, 10% tariff starting February 1st on 8 European nations who dared oppose, rising to 25% later on in the year if nobody has agreed to sell him Greenland by then. The UK signed a deal already. The EU has a deal that they were talking about where the United States gets to send its products into the EU with no tariffs, but the EU, for that privilege, will pay 15% tariff on everything they send into the United States, pretty much. EU Parliament's looking at holding off on passing that at the moment, by the way. It's things. The whole conservative reaction to this is almost your talking points have not kept up with the pace of news. You might want to take a day or two off of performing outrage on the socials in order to catch up. They're just not there. The light has not gone on yet that our relationship with the United States is categorically and intrinsically different than it was. It's actually pretty bad. We have David Frum commenting on some of Mark Carney's comments when asked about all of this. From Bloomberg, it says Mark Carney's dispassionate tone masked a stunning message of realignment. China is a, quote, more predictable trading partner than the U.S. now, requiring stronger ties with Beijing as a, quote, new world order takes hold. David Frum, it's worth watching the video to appreciate Carney's disciplined messaging. He was asked, quote, is China now more predictable than the Trump-led United States? He answered that the Canadian relationship with China is now more predictable than formerly, but Carney phrased his evasive answer in such a way as to generate a freestanding clip of saying more predictable in a way that would sound to the Canadian domestic audience like a criticism of Trump, while preserving his deniability so that when the Trump administration complained about the slur, he could truthfully answer he was comparing China only to its own previous self. When you choose every word carefully, you see the amount of preparation that goes into this. And then you have Pierre that just keeps on running his mouth. And Doug, who does the same thing. Formulating a message, especially to get through a path full with political landmines, it's an art. It's an art. You have the online, like I said, people in short pants, influencers in short pants, doing things like this. And a lot of people are doing the then and now. Mario, or the person who plays the character of Mario online. July 7th, 2025, Ford CEO admits China's EVs are far superior, quote, in quality and technology. It was, quote, the most humbling thing I've ever seen. Liberals, let's tax them 100% so Canadians can never buy them. The tax bills we all get aren't the only taxes we pay. Liberals tax everything. Chinese EVs are out of this world and dirt cheap. July 7th, 2025. January 17th. Oh, look, Pierre was right. Yet again, Chinese electric cars in Israel found to be transmitting data to China. These are spy machines. That question that Pierre asked, which Mario? Which Mario do we believe? The Mario of July 7th, 2025 that said that Chinese EVs are out of the world and dirt cheap? Or the one on January 17, 2026 when he says, hey, yeah, these are spy machines, man. Oh my God. You have Mark Mislip of Energy Media trying to put things in perspective. Canada manufactures 1.3 million cars. The deal calls for 49,000 to start, rising to 70,000 in 5 years. Meanwhile, Trump is actively crushing our auto sector with punitive tariffs. The CPC has jumped the shark. What a bunch of MAGA simps. Responding to Rick Perkins of the CPC, former member of parliament for South Shore St. Margaret's, saying, it's amazing how all the Carney elbows up crowd who want everyone to buy Canadian are cheering 70,000 EVs coming from China and displacing Canadian and North American assembled cars and crushing our auto industry jobs. Hypocrites much? Performative. Then, because there's always a tweet. Always a tweet. Pierre, back September 28th, 2025. I'd be the first to cheer for Carney's globetrotting open to new markets, but the more he travels, the more markets and tariffs rise. 1. Carney met with Chinese leaders equals new tariffs on our farmers and fishermen. 2. Carney checks with President Trump equals more concessions, existing U.S. tariffs doubles and elbows lost. 3. 2 glamorous trips to the UK, British blockade on Canadian beef remains and no free trade deal. Grip and grin photo ops and grand salons are the illusion. Look at the results. That's September 28, 2025. Mark Carney just came back with results. Was Pierre the first to cheer that Carney's alleged globetrotting opened new markets? The deals with Saudi Arabia, the deals with the UAE, the free trade agreement with Indonesia and Ecuador. First to cheer, right? First to cheer. Then again, Pierre is the guy who rose to prominence by writing an essay competition stating 2 terms should be the most. 2 decades later. His principles are a little flexible, let's just say. Oh my word, these people. Yeah. It's really interesting. Because the conservatives are really all over the place. You got, like I said, Scott Moe, who's happy with the deal. You got Doug Ford, who's losing his mind. You have people who don't like Doug Ford spiking the football and saying, Pierre is right. See, Carney betrayed you. He brought in those Chinese spy cars. You should have stuck with Pierre from the get-go. And then you have some of the, as we mentioned, right, the Marios and the online influencers who are swallowing themselves. But you have other people like, and these people who should know better, because there's some Americans obviously trying to swing this as well. Andrew A. Machata, professor of strategic studies at UF Hamilton, non-resident senior fellow at AC Socroft and Atlantic Council, and visiting fellow at the Hoover Institute, writes, the announcement by, please, if you're drinking something, you might want to put it down because this is an exercise in gaslighting. The announcement by Canadian PM Mark J. Carney of a reset in Canada-China ties accompanied by a trade deal of dramatic proportions will likely go down in history as a major political blunder. But don't listen to me. Premier Doug Ford of Ontario already denounced the deal. Anger, however justified, should never be the principal driver of policy. This is true both about our Canadian brethren and true about our European allies. We are living through a rocky transformation of the international system, but the geopolitical realities remain. It is at times like this that we need cooler heads to prevail, and when we need leaders who can focus on the foundational principles of what constitutes our civilization. It defies reason that Canada would invite an Asian communist state to set up shop in North America. Starting to wonder if people have been talking, it's like, is China really communist, or are they just state capitalists by now? One wonders. Canada is culturally a close relative of the United States. We joke that Canadians are Americans with health insurance. Canada is vital to U.S. security. Our common border is not much more than a line on the map. I wonder where you got that one from. We've always been close and connected. These are the realities. Economic or cultural issues aside, the United States is critical to the security and defense of Canada. Let's not forget that while Canada's population is only around 42 million, it is the world's second largest country by total area, covering approximately 3.85 million square miles. Canada spans nearly half of the North American continent with the world's longest coastline and 6 time zones. In a nutshell, Canada needs a strong alliance with the United States to ensure national security, and conversely, America needs Canada to secure its neighborhood. Alliances are built based on common threats and common interests with shared values reinforcing, if not driving, their formation. The US-Canada alliance ticks off all three. So riddle me this. Why would Canada endanger this alliance by inviting China into our neighborhood? I'll read that again. Why would Canada endanger this alliance by inviting China into our neighborhood? Oh, girl, you can't sit with us. Again, anger, justified or not, should never define foundational policy choices. As I always repeat when I speak in Europe, Europeans do not have a relationship with this or that US president, this or that party. They have a vital security relationship with the United States. I would say exactly the same thing to our Canadian friends. Let's reflect on how we got to this place and course correct. And I would add that statecraft is never easy and that we need leaders who can rise up to the challenge because the future of the West is at stake. Wow. Bruce Anderson? This is ridiculously misinformed and inaccurate. Brushed off. Other things that came in as well that we could throw into the mix as data. Some public opinion. Frank Graves. I've forgotten, it's escaped me right off the top of my head what polling company he is Ecos. I knew it wasn't Leger. Ecos polling. Asked if Canada were ever to face a situation in which the United States used military force against Canadian territory, what do you believe should be Canada's primary response? And there were three options: don't know or no response, avoid military confrontation and make concessions to prevent further harm, defend itself militarily even if the odds of success are uncertain. So if we remove the don't know and no response, avoid military confrontation and make concessions to prevent further harm, or defend itself militarily even if the odds of success are uncertain. The avoid military confrontation, when I'm going to show you the graph, and to make concessions to prevent further harm, is what you're going to see in blue. Defend yourself militarily even if the odds of success are uncertain is what you're going to see in green. All right. Here it is. Nationally, 17% don't know, give no response. 24% said avoid military confrontation and make concessions to prevent further harm. 59% said to defend ourselves, even if the odds of success are uncertain. Among Liberals, 11% only want to go to the avoid military confrontation and make concessions route, and 73% said defend ourselves militarily. The NDP, even fewer, 8% said avoid military confrontation and make concessions to prevent further harm. And 78% said defend ourselves militarily. The Bloc Québécois, you could expect a little bit of split there, but 31% said avoid military confrontation, make concessions to prevent further harm, and 46% said defend ourselves militarily, even if the odds of success are uncertain. So a plurality of them were on the side of defending ourselves. And now we get to the Conservatives. 16% of them said they don't know. 38% said defend ourselves militarily. And 47% said avoid military confrontation and make concessions. Pierre keeps on talking about being a country that negotiates from a position of strength, but his party, 47% of the people who vote for his party, are so afraid of losing the little bit they have, they're willing to give a lot of it away in order to keep some. That's not strength. That's not a position of strength in any way, shape, or form. that's rolling over. I'm not going to say disloyal. We still have some people who still are not yet convinced that the United States is no longer our friend. Not that we ever had friends if we again adopt the thinking that nations have no friends, merely interests, and nations are not moral actors. That's discouraging. That is completely discouraging. I don't know what to make of that number at all. That's concerning. And then there was oh boy. The Greenland stuff is happening alongside this. And again, sadly, the leader of the opposition had something to say about it, which caused a lot of people to turn their heads because it was seemingly wholly inconsistent with something he had said on January 3rd. So this is Pierre on January 18th talking about Greenland. Hopefully it's big enough on the screen. I'll make it a little bigger, see if I can here. Whoops, there we go. It is unacceptable for the U.S. to seize the territory of a sovereign country, including by threatening tariffs on other NATO countries. Greenland is part of the Kingdom of Denmark, and we support its territorial integrity. Conservatives support NATO and Canada's obligations as a NATO member. Canada should strengthen the NATO alliance and rebuild our own forces in the Arctic to combat threats also coming from China and Russia and to protect our seas, skies, and soil. Okay. Right. That seems like a good statement. But at the beginning of the year, something happened in a country south of us in South America. The United States kind of went in there and seized, captured, kidnapped the alleged leader and his spouse and brought them to the United States in a military operation, of course, and then charged them. And that morning, Pierre Poilièvre had this to say. Get some cups. Congratulations to President Trump on successfully arresting narco-terrorist and socialist dictator Nicolas Maduro, who should live out his days in prison. The legitimate winner of the most recent Venezuelan elections, Edmundo Gonzalez, should take office along with the courageous hero and voice of the Venezuelan people, Maria Corina Machado. Down with socialism. Long live freedom. Huh. And 15 days later, it is unacceptable for the U.S. to seize the territory of a sovereign country, including by threatening tariffs on other NATO countries. Greenland is part of the Kingdom of Denmark, and we support its territorial integrity. Are you confused like I am? Girl, you got to pick a lane here. In the space of 15 days, you went from congratulating a man for seizing another nation. If you look on Wikipedia, it says as Donald Trump's picture as President of Venezuela. He did the whole look at me, I'm the captain now thing in Venezuela, for which you tripped over your dick to congratulate him. Long live freedom, down with socialism, and the freedom never came, and the socialists are still kind of in charge, or at least on the ground. And then 15 days later, it's completely unacceptable to seize another territory. Oh, Kit Saucy. The difference is the skin tone. Wow. And yes, Kit Linda, once again, Skippy comes up with all the things Carney is already doing. That has been a thing with him. Is take the things that Carney said he was doing or would do, or take the things that Carney did and then put them all together in like in a 6-point, 12-point, 13-point, 5-point plan and say, this is what we need to do. Yeah, we know. The other guy said it. Carney's stealing all of my ideas. Uh-huh. You keep believing that, princess. It's just, oh my God. This guy, it's like, he's exhausting, man. It's just stop. Just stop. And, well, Poilièvre not being happy with what Trump is doing in Ukraine kind of didn't go over well with a lot of people in his online influencers in short pants thing. They are a lot of them are not impressed with him at all. So once again, to support my theory that the only people conservatives hate more than liberals or progressives are each other, here are some of the things that came about. The pleb, when he saw Pierre's tweet. The Bozos aren't going to for you no matter what you say, and all this post accomplishes is pissing off those who actually support you. Sometimes tweeting is nothing is better than tweeting something. This is one of those times. Fire whoever told you to tweet this. Excuse me, and you are? Someone's a bossy. Someone's a little bossy baby there. Issuing commands. Stomping his little foot. Interesting. And then we have, again, Dimitri Soudis worked for Mr. Stephen Harper, very high level. Go fly a kite and let the leader of the opposition do his job as a prime minister in waiting. This is Canada, not your banana republic. You said you would leave if Carney won, so go. I will personally cover your flight, your relocation costs, and even your first 6 months of rent so you can take your verbal diarrhea somewhere else. Enough is enough. And please don't forget to accuse me of being a liberal in your reply. I'm a conservative, the real kind. Mm. Mm. Fight, 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 fight. And Andrew Coyne even got in on that a little bit of that action. The North crowd are not pleased with Poilièvre for defending Greenland. They really should change the name of the CPC from Conservative Party of Canada to Crackpot Puritans of Canada. It's like the purity test that's going on at the moment. Oh my word. It's rather spectacular. Kids and cubs. People are imploding. So yeah, Pierre Poilièvre dared say something. The 50% of conservative voters in other ECOS polling who indicate that they think that Donald Trump is doing a good job. They don't like Pierre criticizing Donald Trump. They really don't like it. And they are willing to call him to order. And this is the reason. It's the reason why the Conservatives won't form government and Pierre Poilièvre will not be prime minister. Because they fear their base. A true leader does not get led by the nose, by its base. This type of behavior, people having these types of meltdowns, it drives home what Prime Minister Justin Trudeau said. They didn't want to be heard. They wanted to be obeyed. In fact, this one's demanding it. Fire the person who told you to put this. Stand with the people who got you here. We want Trump to invade Greenland. A leader, a real leader stands up to that. A real leader pushes back on that. A real leader is like, excuse me, where the hell do you get off? And I mean, if you look at the responses down that thread, it's not good. They are very, very angry with him for having tweeted that, for having taken that position. It's quite scary. And you get both of it, right? You get the people pointing out the U.S. just kidnapped a foreign leader and you clapped. And then you get the way to keep those elbows up, Pierre. That ought to pander us into a war with the U.S. for which the entire establishment is currently stumping. And then, of course, he gets, wow, finally a correct take. Congrats from other ones. Right? They're going at each other. They are going at each other. There are problems in this movement. There are some big problems in this movement. And then I saw this other article over the course of the weekend suggesting that Pierre was doing a lot of work, was really working those phones and stuff in order to secure support at the leadership review, which is in about 10 days or so. Not sure if he's feeling a little nervous, but I understand that you have to campaign for support, right? Just depends how much campaigning for support you're doing. This is according to the Globe and Mail. Stephanie Levitz. Conservative leader Pierre Poilièvre and a team of loyalists are working to ensure that party members are on side with his leadership ahead of a vote on his future later this month. Though Mr. Poilièvre is widely expected to win the January 30 vote, they are not leaving the end result to chance. Mr. Poilièvre is holding private meet and greets across the country with delegates to the Calgary Convention, giving them an opportunity to express their concerns to him directly and allowing him to make the case that he should remain. A meeting for Ottawa area delegates held on Saturday was billed as, quote, a conservative appreciation event with Mr. Poilièvre. Quote, this is an opportunity to celebrate the hard work and dedication our grassroots members said, the dedication of our grassroots members, said the invitation, a copy of which was obtained by the Globe and Mail. Meanwhile, those in Mr. Poilièvre's inner circle are holding their own meetings and putting in calls to members to hear their concerns and advocate for Mr. Poilièvre, 5 sources told the Globe. The Globe is not naming the sources because they were not authorized to discuss internal party matters. Those involved in the effort include strategist Hamish Marshall and MP Arpan Khanna, both key players in Mr. Poilièvre's leadership win in 2022. Both men declined to be interviewed. The Conservative Party's constitution mandates that a leadership review vote must be held when a leader loses an election, as Mr. Poilièvre did this spring. He did, however, pick up more seats for the Conservatives and took its share of the popular vote to levels not seen in decades, messages that he and his team are stressing to party members in the meetings. The party's constitution also says that Mr. Poilièvre needs more than 50% of the votes cast to remain as leader. But getting a simple majority does not assure that he'll stay on. In 2022, Jason Kenney stepped down as leader of the United Conservative Party in Alberta after winning 51.4% in a review vote. Mr. Poilièvre and his inner circle have thus far declined to say what percentage they consider a sufficient benchmark for him to remain. And on that, if I'm going to make an editorial note, we are talking about a man who actually lost his seat and then got a man who actually won his seat to give up his seat so that Pierre could run. And there too, he worked to make it as sure a thing as possible by picking the safest or second safest seat possible and then ran in that. So a person that does that, I have a feeling that 50% 0.00000000000000001 would be enough to say, hey, good enough, I'm staying. I could be wrong. It's like there are going to be nail marks in the floorboards when we get him out. Okay? Jeez. His leadership review is the first for the Conservative Party since 2005. Andrew Scheer lost an election in 2019 but stepped down before leadership review could be held. Aaron O'Toole lost the 2021 election and then was removed as leader by his MPs. Gee, I wonder who played a key role in that happening. Anyway, Stephen Harper faced party members after he lost the 2004 election. In 2005, he won 84% of the vote. Ian Brodie, a member of Harper's inner circle, said the result took work. There was the ground game of reaching out to delegates ahead of time and then also engaging with them at the convention itself, he said. There was also the matter of Mr. Harper's speech, which took place right before the vote and focused on the path ahead, he said. The context was important. Mr. Harper had over-delivered on the 2004 election, and he had to rise above the fray to show the path to victory. Delegates wanted to see that, Mr. Brodie said. Mr. Poilièvre is also scheduled to give a speech ahead of this month's vote. Quote, this time the psychology is different, Mr. Brodie said. 13 months ago, we were 26 points ahead, didn't win. What does Mr. Poilièvre make of that? That's the challenge. After his leadership review, Mr. Harper went on to win the 2006, 2008, and 2011 elections. He stepped down in 2015 after losing to the Liberals. The Conservatives hold conventions roughly every other year, depending on when elections fall. While they were due for a convention this year, the party had originally planned to hold it later in the year. They then moved up the date so the leadership review would be dealt with sooner, at Pierre's request. I guess he didn't want people to see him too long in the job, being ineffective before voting, or also didn't want to have to be forced to play the shtick that he's been playing so far for another 6 months. so that he could try something else after. One or the other. The party's 2023 convention in Quebec City saw upwards of 3,000 people attend. It's not yet known how many delegates will be in Calgary to cast a ballot. There are external factors playing into attendance. The Ontario Progressive Conservatives are holding their convention the exact same weekend, a decision they said they made because it was best for them. But it means some Ontario-based delegates are opting to stay close to their home rather than travel to Calgary. Other Conservatives are saving their money to attend another marquee event, celebrations in Ottawa to mark 20 years since Mr. Harper took office. Those are scheduled for the week after the Calgary Convention. Interesting. So yes, Pierre clearly feels that he needs to campaign for support. Again, you do need to do that. You can't just say show up for the vote and vote and not to show that you actually want the job as well. But yes, it seems that the phones are being worked, and but Pierre's been at this for a while. He's through every report that I've read and whatnot, it's very clear that he's had his thumb on the scale, even down to the selection of the delegates. So again, the part I guess that I'm finding a little interesting or curious about that is that if he selected the delegates with the view that they would vote for him, then why does he still need to be working the phones? Weren't they chosen for that particular purpose? Things I wonder. All right. Let's see what else we have here for you, kits and cubs, because there were little extra details here. With the Greenland stuff that I mentioned before, the whether or not Canada is sending someone keeps on changing. You keep on getting news reports. Yep, they're definitely sending somebody. No, they haven't. They have already. All this kind of stuff. It seems that the most recent update is that we are now considering sending soldiers to Greenland for military exercises with North Atlantic Treaty Organization allies, as of course, U.S. President Donald Trump threatens tariffs on European nations unless they let him purchase and control the semi-autonomous island. And we have to have opened the door to the possibility that if we do send them for this particular thing, that those same tariffs that would apply to those 8 nations would then also apply to us. This is something that Mark Carney probably wants to avoid, and given that we're not necessarily needed, given that we already do Arctic training, right? But on the other hand, there is something about being there, especially if we want those 8 nations to come running to our side, should anything happen over here at some point. So it's probably best to show up. But it's probably going to come with consequences, and I think this is one of the reasons that there's some delay on getting a firm yes. It's like, do we really, 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 really need to be there? Can we like just take a pass on this one? 2 senior Canadian officials have told CBC News that a set of contingency plans were drawn up last week and presented to the federal government. A Royal Canadian Air Force contingent is already taking part in a pre-planned NORAD exercise in Greenland, but the Prime Minister is weighing whether to send additional forces as part of sovereignty exercises the Danes are planning, which could include drills to protect the Arctic island's critical infrastructure. Given the political implications of Canada joining and the potential blowback from the Trump administration, both sources said they're not certain which way the government is leaning. CBC is not naming the sources because they were not authorized to speak publicly about the matter. Among the options, a small contingent of Canadian soldiers could be flown to Greenland by the end of the week if called upon, the sources said. News of the potential deployment was first reported by the Globe and Mail. While the nations involved are all members of NATO, the sources emphasized joining the Danish exercise would be outside the Western military alliance's framework, much like the efforts to help Ukraine have fallen to the coalition of the willing. Over the weekend, Trump reiterated his demand that the U.S. buy and control Greenland, claiming that China and Russia also want the island. On social media, he threatened a 10% tariff on 8 European countries opposed to the idea: Denmark, Norway, Sweden, France, Germany, the United Kingdom, the Netherlands, and Finland. The tariff rate would rise to 25% on June 1st if the U.S. did not reach a deal to buy Greenland, Trump added. The countries named by Trump have backed Denmark, warning that the U.S. military seizure of NATO territory could collapse the military alliance that Washington leads. In a statement released Sunday morning, the 8 European countries said they stand in full solidarity with the people of Greenland and stand ready to engage in a dialogue based on the principles of sovereignty and territorial integrity that we stand firmly behind. Tariff threats undermine transatlantic relations and a risk of dangerous downward spiral, the statement added. Denmark specifically announced earlier this week it would bolster its troops' naval and air presence in Greenland in conjunction with NATO allies. At a press conference in Doha, Qatar on Saturday morning, Carney said Canada, quote, is concerned by Trump's tariff threat and, quote, we always will support sovereignty and territorial integrity of countries wherever their geographic location is. Decisions about the future of Greenland are for Greenland and Denmark to decide, the Prime Minister added. General Jenny Carignan, the chief of the defense staff, said in an interview on CBC's Rosemary Barton Live that Trump's interest in controlling Greenland certainly causes, quote, discussions within NATO. When asked whether Canada is working on a proposal to contribute Canadian forces on the ground, Carignan said Canada is, quote, always working closely with her Danish partner. There's definitely a lot of interest in Arctic security from a NATO perspective as well, and we will work together to do that, Carignan said. So, yeah, not again, a yes or indication of openness and all that kind of stuff without actually saying yes. So again, very heavy on the diplomatic speak and the choosing the words very carefully in order to not make things worse. But like I said, it seems to me that this is something that we are going to have to say yes to at some point, and and the blowback will be what it will be, unfortunately. But you have to push back on something like this. You just have to push back. You have to let them know it's not going to be easy, and it's going to come with a whole bunch more headaches. And hopefully that will be enough of a deterrent. Hopefully the bully will just move to pick an easier fight of some kind. All right. Let's see what else we have here for us. This is here some of the news that I got when I was talking about the deal with China with regard to the EVs, whether or not it was for them to build a plant here or whether or not it was for us to build EVs with Chinese knowledge. This is according to Ashley Burke and Benjamin Lopez-Steven. Canada wants to look at joint ventures and investments with Chinese companies within the next 3 years to build a Canadian electric vehicle with Chinese knowledge, according to a senior Canadian official. The official who spoke on the condition they not be named said the goal is for Canada to become the first country in North America to build this type of EV. It's a fundamental error, the official said, to think that U.S. President Donald Trump will not allow Chinese electric vehicles into the United States. The official also said that Canada kept the Trump administration in the loop and gave it advance warning of its decision on Friday to allow up to 49,000 Chinese EVs into the Canadian market each year at a 6.1% tariff, down from a 100% tariff imposed in 2024. And the one reaction I hadn't mentioned yet was the one of the President of the United States, who seemed to be rather nonplussed, as all the conservatives, the pro-Pierre conservatives and whatnot, were losing their minds about this, basically turning around saying, well, if Canada can make a deal with China, they should. I keep on saying, okay, now let's wait 3 or 4 days until enough people gets into his ear and to tell him how he can use the fact we did that as leverage and we're evil and terrible and nasty all over again. But so far, just saying. Canada's ambassador to the U.S., Kirsten Hillman, was aware of the conversations with Beijing, the official said, adding that once Prime Minister Mark Carney and Chinese President Xi Jinping met, Hillman made sure that the U.S. Trade Representative Jameson Greer was aware. The official said the American reaction was neutral. Canada didn't take the U.S. by surprise, the official said. When asked about Canada detouring from matching American tariffs on Chinese EVs, Trump said Carney was doing the right thing. Quote, that's what he should be doing. It's a good thing for him to sign a trade deal. If you can get a deal with China, you should do that, the U.S. president said. But other officials in Washington sounded more concerned, according to Greer. The deal is, quote, problematic for Canada. Quote, there's a reason why we don't sell a lot of Chinese cars in the United States. It's because we have tariffs to protect American auto workers and Americans from those vehicles, he told CNBC on Friday morning. U.S. Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy said he thought Canada would look back at this deal and regret bringing Chinese cars into the market. The federal government is working on an auto policy expected to be released in February that it hopes could help grow Canada's 125,000 worker auto industry and eventually leapfrog over the US. Trump has insisted the US does not need cars made in Canada, and he has hit this country's auto sector with tariffs on Canadian made passenger vehicles. The US president has also pushed auto manufacturers to move operations to the United States to avoid tariffs. Last month, Industry Minister Mélanie Joly said the government would serve automotive giant Stellantis with a notice of default under funding contracts related to projects in Windsor and Brampton, Ontario. The move came after Stellantis revealed last October it was scrapping plans to build a Jeep model at its Brampton plant and move production to the US. The government is also planning to give preferential access to foreign automakers that manufacture vehicles in Canada compared with those who import cars assembled abroad, the official said. Foreign automakers that won't manufacture vehicles in Canada will be subject to terms that aren't as beneficial, the official said. On Friday, Carney said the deal with China will make some EVs more affordable for Canadians, and that it would amount to just a tiny sliver of the Canadian domestic market, about 3%. So there you go. So, like I said, there's a significant difference between it being a Canadian EV or North American EV with Chinese knowledge than being BYD setting up a plant over here. So this could be really cool to see this intellectual property and technology transfer happening, but out in the open, like this with the contract and everything above board. Very, very interesting move. The other thing that's been going on, another part of the world is, and again with Trump and the Prime Minister, is this whole thing with Gaza. And apparently, Donald Trump wants to create something, a board of peace, to sort of administer what would be happening there. And the more we learn about this, the weirder it gets. But this is according to CBC from January 16th, so it's a couple of days old now. Prime Minister Mark Carney has been asked by U.S. President Donald Trump to join the Board of Peace that will supervise the temporary governance of the Gaza Strip, a senior Canadian official told journalists traveling with the Prime Minister on his overseas trip. Carney will accept the invitation, the official said. That was on the 16th. Under a U.S. plan that Israel and Hamas signed off on, Palestinian technocratic body will be overseen by the International Board for a transitional period. The White House named members of the board on Friday. They include U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio, Trump's special envoy Steve Witkoff, former British Prime Minister Tony Blair, and Jared Kushner, Trump's son-in-law. Trump is the chair of the board, according to the plan revealed late last year. Egypt is reviewing an invitation from Trump for Egyptian President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi to join the board, Egypt's foreign affairs minister told reporters on Saturday. Meanwhile, Trump has also sent a letter inviting Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan to become a member, the Turkish presidency said on Saturday. The board also includes private equity executive and billionaire Mark Rowan, World Bank President AJ Banga, Turkish Foreign Affairs Minister Hakan Fidan, and Robert Gabriel, a Trump advisor. The White House said, adding that Nikolay Mladenov, a former United Nations Middle East envoy, will have the role of High Representative for Gaza. The White House statement did not lay out the responsibilities of each member. Carney was not among the names in the White House announcement. Many rights experts and advocates have previously said that Trump overseeing a board to supervise a foreign territory governance resembled a colonial structure, while Blair's involvement was criticized last year due to his role in the Iraq War. Major General Jasper Jeffers, a former U.S. Special Operations Commander, was appointed commander of the International Stabilization Force, the White House said. A UN Security Council resolution adopted in mid-November authorized the Board of Peace and countries working with it to establish that force in Gaza. So one could think, on January 16th, this being offered to the Prime Minister, even after saying that he had made this deal for EVs and all that kind of stuff with China, that could be a sign that, the U.S. actually was indeed okay with it. But since then, there has been a lot more things coming out about this Board of Peace that makes it such that Canada's position has maybe changed a little bit. This is according to France 24 or France 24. It says here, is there an author? No? Okay. U.S. President Donald Trump's government has asked countries to pay $1 billion for a permanent spot on his Board of Peace aimed at resolving conflicts according to his charter, seen Monday by AFP. The White House has asked various world leaders to sit on the board chaired by Trump himself, including Russian President Vladimir Putin, Hungarian Premier Viktor Orban, and Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney. Member countries represented on the board by their head of state would be allowed to join for 3 years or longer if they paid more than $1 billion within the first year, the charter said. Each member state shall serve a term of no more than 3 years from this charter's entry into force, subject to renewal by the chairman, the board's draft charter says. The 3-year membership term shall not apply to member states that contribute more than $1 billion US in cash funds to the Board of Peace within the first year of the charter's entry into force. The board was originally conceived to oversee the rebuilding of Gaza, but its charter does not appear to limit its role to the occupied Palestinian territory. The White House said there would be a main board, a Palestinian committee of technocrats meant to govern devastated Gaza, and a second executive board that appears designed to have a more advisory role. The Board of Peace is an international organization that seeks to promote stability, restore dependable and lawful governance, and secure enduring peace in areas affected or threatened by conflict, the charter says. It appears to take a swipe at international institutions such as the United Nations, saying that the board should have the courage to depart from approaches at institutions that have too often failed. Trump has regularly criticized the United Nations and announced this month that his country will withdraw from 66 global organizations and treaties, roughly half affiliated with the UN. Membership of the board would be limited to states invited to participate by the chairman, according to the draft charter. Trump would have the power to remove member states from the board subject to a veto by 2/3 of members and choose his replacement should he leave his role as chairman. The Board of Peace began to take shape on Saturday when the leaders of Egypt, Turkey, Argentina, and Canada were asked to join. Trump also named as members Secretary of State Marco Rubio, former British Prime Minister Tony Blair, senior negotiator Steve Witkoff, and his son-in-law Jared Kushner. Israel has objected to the lineup of a Gaza executive board to operate under the body, which includes Turkish Foreign Minister Hakan Fidan and Qatari diplomat Ali al-Tawadi. So it went for being something that was supposed to handle the reconstruction of Gaza to about a few days later, a shakedown for $1 billion or more per country that's going to be there to a body that seems to want to supplant or be an alternative to the United Nations, run by Donald Trump, who would control all the money, and should he leave, he gets to choose his successor. And Netanyahu hates it. I have a feeling this project may not happen. It smells like a shakedown. According to Politico, Canadian position shifted a little bit. This is as of yesterday, 1:51 p.m. Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney says while he's accepted Donald Trump's invitation on principle to join the President's Board of Peace to oversee next steps in Gaza, it's just unclear now what the $1 billion permanent membership fee is for. The President raised it with me a few weeks ago, he told reporters in Doha, Qatar on Sunday, adding he has yet to absorb all its details, including how the Trump-led initiative will be structured and how financing would work. Quote, Canada wants money to have maximum impact, Carney said, laying out a condition for Canadian involvement. We still do not have unimpeded aid flows, humanitarian aid flows at scale to the people in Gaza. That is a precondition for moving forward on this. A Canadian government official clarified to Politico that Canada will not pay for a seat on the board, and the U.S. has not asked for money. They were granted anonymity to discuss ongoing discussions about the proposal. Quote, the proposed charter is still a document under discussion and many terms and conditions are still being worked out, said the official, adding Carney signaled his intent to accept the invitation to join, quote, because it is important to have a seat at the table to shape this process from within. The White House announced Friday a cadre of leaders who will be led by Trump, the board's inaugural chair, to oversee the transitional governance of Gaza. Carney said Trump's Board of Peace came up in his conversation with Qatari Emir Sheikh Tamim bin Hamad Al Thani, where the pair had an exchange of views on the topic. Quote, I found that we were very aligned about what needs to happen, how it needs to work in order for this to be consistent with a positive outcome, he said. Carney is the first sitting Canadian leader to visit Qatar, marking a shift in Canadian foreign policy to deepen trade and defense relations in the Gulf, prompted by an ongoing trade war with the United States that escalated in the past year. And it actually find it surprising that in 2026 there are still countries in the world that no sitting prime minister has been to yet. I would have thought just as a matter of course we would have ticked them all off like once or twice or three times by now, just even for form. So you know what? So has anybody ever been to Tuvalu? Yeah, maybe we should go check in and say hello. You know? I thought that there was that there was I would have assumed that there would have been a list to make sure that like we've talked to everybody somewhere along the way, but apparently not. There you go. The aggression and unpredictability of Trump 2.0 global agenda has forced America's allies to turn to rewrite their foreign policies as the president continues to wield tariffs as a cudgel to push his America First agenda on world leaders. Trump announced new sanctions against 8 of America's closest European allies on Saturday in a bid to use economic coercion to acquire Greenland. Denmark, Norway, Sweden, France, Germany, the UK, the Netherlands, and Finland will face a 10% levy on February 1st on, quote, any and all goods sent to the United States of America, Trump said in a Truth Social post. The rate increases to 25% on June 1st if Greenland is not in American hands by then. Quote, this tariff will be due and payable until such time as a deal is reached for the complete and total purchase of Greenland, said Trump. Carney called the escalation, quote, a serious situation that has Canada, quote, concerned. The Canadian leader is in Doha, fresh off a trip to Beijing to visit Chinese President Xi Jinping. Xi and Carney made waves in Washington by signing a preliminary deal to de-escalate a simmering trade war between the two countries. Xi hailed the meeting as a milestone, a, quote, turnaround of ties. Their deal included major cuts to Chinese tariffs on Canadian canola and the introduction of an initial import cap of 49,000 Chinese electric vehicles allowed into Canada annually, marking a break in the 100% tariff policy adopted in lockstep with the United States. The EV policy shifts open the door to future Chinese joint venture investments in Canada's auto sector, Carney said. Several Trump administration officials have been irked by the Canada-China trade detente, including U.S. Trade Representative Jameson Greer and Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy, as well as members of the House Select Committee on China. But the president doesn't seem bothered. So there you go. And there was also Nikki Haley at some point who decided that she would chime in as well. And it's like we are being gaslit and we are being worked so hard, right? You got Hoekstra, you got all of them, right? It's like it's all our fault, right? We need to do better, or had we not done this, or had we done this, or had we not, right? It's like we don't want anything from you, but don't you dare go get close to China as well. So yeah, we have a Nikki Haley who decided she was going to offer this gem. Canada cozying up to China to welcome more investment puts all of North America at serious risk. So apparently now we are putting all of North America at serious risk. Of course it doesn't. Right? Putting all of North America at serious risk is actually, the Republican Party's fetish at the moment. And it's like, you both don't get to say, we have nothing you need, and then complain when we go out and find someone who does need what we have. It's like, you should have appreciated what you had when you had it. Amazing. It's like they tell us you don't have anything we need as we walk to them from the front smiling. And when we say, okay, then watch the back of us when we walk, well, then they can't cope with that. At some point, you just tune these people out. They can't be satisfied. They are perpetually miserable. What you gonna do? If they are hell-bent on being miserable and being dissatisfied no matter what you do, what's the point? All right. the last thing I wanted to show to you, kits and cubs, is this exchange with the Premier of Manitoba, Wab Kinew, um, because I mean, he's just so good, so good. This is the type of reaction that we need from our premiers. He models the statesmanship that we need. Okay, for some reason the volume is off. That's very weird.
You guys can have at it.
What do you make of the deal with China and what it means for canola producers in Manitoba?
We've been asking in Western Canada, certainly our government here in Manitoba, for an off-ramp for these canola tariffs. So to see some progress here is welcome news for the ag sector. The ag sector is massive, right? It's a huge part of the Canadian economy, huge part of our Manitoba economy. So that's welcome. The Prime Minister has called for a meeting with us as premiers today at noon. And so I'll be participating in that to get more details about the overall trade deal that they arrived at, and to ask what's the situation with pork, because that's a big part of our economy here in Manitoba as well. I watched the Prime Minister's press conference, didn't see an overt mention of pork, but then at the same time vague wording too. So anyway, we need to get some more details because we need to see the pork tariffs taken off as well.
Doug Ford is upset about the EV tariffs on Chinese vehicles being lifted and feels it's not worth the trade. Do you agree with him, or do you think there's room to lift the EV tariffs?
Well, we've been clear here in Manitoba, and what I would say to the Ontario auto worker is there is time for us to support your industry. And I just encourage folks in Ontario, including Ontario farmers, to remember this is a real impact today that we're facing with the Chinese tariffs on agricultural products. The impact on Ontario auto workers is something we're being warned about. We got to take seriously, but we got a bit of time, I would say. So can we address the real impact that we've already been paying on the ag sector here in Western Canada, while also putting together a plan to support the Ontario auto worker? I think we can.
Just moving back to pork for a minute, what?
Yeah.
I mean, you said no overt. I didn't see anything, hear anything on pork whatsoever.
All I meant with the overt was like in a few spots there was like on ag products, which leads you to believe maybe pork, anyway. But yeah, no, I agree. There was no mention of the word pork.
What is your understanding? I mean, pork is largely the biggest deal in Quebec, Manitoba. Canola is obviously Manitoba, Alberta, and Saskatchewan.
Yeah.
What are the issues that need to be resolved with the Chinese that you've been briefed on so far going into this meeting?
Well, I think you know all the issues, right?
I mean, with pork in particular. Why would pork be something they could not read? Why, to your knowledge, would pork be something that...
I don't know that it is separate from all the other issues. So that's why I'm looking to this noon meeting today to get more information. Could be that just they didn't mention it for whatever reason, and it is actually part of the deal. The other thing that we heard this morning is till the end of the year and a little bit of time before everything gets implemented. So maybe this is something that gets implemented, right? So those are kind of the questions I want to see the Prime Minister answer.
And en français about canola et pork.
Canola, pork. C'est pas mal, ça, hein?
Est-ce que vous pouvez m'expliquer comment vous avez reçu cette nouvelle de la diminution?
All right, here. Give it a little pause here as he answers in French, and then hopefully I can bring you a little more. But his French is I have to say, is rather good, actually. So it's rather impressive. No wonder Doug Ford wants him to teach him. But as you can hear there, Mr. Kinew, when he's talking, right, he is, how would you put it? He is talking about what Manitoba needs, right? But he is also able to talk about what other provinces need, and he's not doing it in a manner that is confrontational or a manner that is, I win, you lose. He's trying to, there's a whole team and not everybody is going to have their issue addressed first. Certain things are ready at certain times, others are not. But just because there's something happening that helps someone else at this particular moment doesn't mean we give up on helping everyone else, or that we stop feeling, uh, you know, just because I got mine now means I don't need to be invested anymore in making sure that you get yours. So yeah, again, Mr. Canoe, uh, doing a very, very good job here of being a statesman. I would just like so I think a lot of you probably agree with me. I would just like to see more of that type of approach to handling these types of scrums and handling these situations. That it's yes, our each of our individual things are important. Yes, they are. And they're very important to us. But we're also part, of a bigger project and a bigger plan. Because sometimes it's not always about my thing, right? Um, Okay, kids and cubs, I believe that's the end of this episode of the Daily Beaver Afternoon Show. We hope that you love listening to us because we loved making this for you. Remember, sharing is caring and word of mouth is priceless. So please tell your peeps and poops all about us. We really appreciate it when you do. Uh, oh, did I? Yes, I did do that. Sorry. There was something I thought I had forgotten, but I did not. Um, so yes, please do share with people what you think of the show and why it is our content resonates with you. It means the world to us that you do, and we can't buy that type of advertising. As well, kits and cubs, if you would like us to help you, hopefully I will be able to get started on getting some of those podcast versions. I seem to have all the software and stuff that I need now. So hopefully I'll be able to get on that and start getting those out for you. And to go to that in order to make sure that you can get them when they're ready, it's podpage.com/the True North Eager Beaver, sponsored by the Ray Girl. And if you go there and click subscribe when we have something fresh off the podcast bandwidth again, it will come directly to your favorite podcast feed and we'll be waiting for you. And that way you can pop us in your ears, take on the day, and remain informed at the same time. Now, kids and cubs, if you would like to help us, two ways you can do that. One is by going to the True North Eager Beaver Media Incorporated YouTube page. That QR code that just appeared will bring you there, and clicking on our buttons like, share, and subscribe. Give them a little smash. It's a lot of fun. And plus, it helps us with the algorithm, and that's always a good thing. So thanks. And kids and cubs, if you would like to help us in other ways, we do incur some costs to bring the show to you, and we would be very grateful to receive your support in the form of an enthusiastic expression of encouragement to do more. And you can do that by scanning this QR code and going to our coffee page. That's coffee, ko-fi.com/eagerbeaver, all in one word. And there, if you leave us a couple of loonies or toonies, that goes into our cup, and you get to do your bit to keep your favorite beaver moist. Because a moist beaver is a very happy beaver, especially in the winter when it gets dry. Yeah. So your help is always greatly appreciated. Thank you for all that you do. Now, kids and cubs, if you want to do Buy Canadian while you are donating to us, truenortheagerbeaver@gmail.com is our email address, and please just send us a donation that way. And when you do that, none of the US CE Tech Bros get a share of your donation. It all comes to us. We get 100% of it, which means you get more bang for your buck. And that makes us happy as well. So thank you for your support. We really do appreciate it. Kids and cubs, if you do not have the ability to donate some money, you can contribute in terms of letting us know what you think of the show, or guest suggestions or news articles that you think we should be reading. All of that you can also send to truenortheagerbeaver@gmail.com. And if you want to help us as well, if you're cooking something tasty, just post it to our socials with the hashtag #KidsWhoCook. And that gives me some wonderful ideas, because I like to spend some time in the kitchen, but just every now and then, you get you get chef's block, and some ideas always helps. So thank you for all of your suggestions and all the ways you participate to help the show go. And of course, Kits and Cubs, we have the Damn Fam Discord if you want to have some more Damn Fam time between the shows, the unofficial Damn Fam Discord. But the Queen acknowledges it, so it is officially acknowledged, if still unofficial. And our Instagram account that Kit Uncover runs for us. Thank you for your support for starting these initiatives. Means the world to us to have you so engaged with what we do and trying to get the word out, trying to spread the beaver, as we say. All right, Kits and Cubs, because democracy is something that you do remember if you live on Prince Edward Island on February 7th. It's the leadership vote for the Progressive Conservative Party there. And if you are, you already have to have joined the party in order to be able to vote. That closed on the 16th. But the second leadership forum will be taking place at Cavendish Farms Wellness Center in Montague on the 22nd, so in a few days. So you might want to tune in to that. Also, we have our two petitions that we've been flogging. We have House of Commons petition 6821 about foreign media ownership laws. So there you go. I'll put that in the chat for you. Please sign it if you haven't already, or share it with someone. It's to encourage our MPs to table legislation that would make it such that Canadian media should be owned and operated. It basically says here, we, the undersigned, residents of Canada, call upon the House of Commons in Parliament assembled to pass legislation requiring majority Canadian ownership and control of print, digital, and other non-audio-visual news media to protect Canadian sovereignty, ensure journalism integrity, and guarantee that our media reflects Canadian priorities and values. So if you could please go there and sign that and share it. We are now at 13,702 signatures. We were at 11,000 when we left for the weekend. And I'm seeing more and more people talk about this subject online, and every time I see it, I funnel the petition over and say, hey, then perhaps you might want to sign this. So a lot of Canadians are starting to tune in to the idea that maybe we should be doing something about it. It seems that we have a bit of a quisling press, and we might want to deal with that at some point, sooner rather than later. The other one, Kits and Cubs, is our Commons petition E7027, which asks the House of Commons to invoke Section 90 of the Constitution Act of 1867, which is the disallowance clause, in order to take action against legislation introduced by the provincial governments of Alberta and Saskatchewan that restricts the rights of transgender and gender diverse people and has been shielded from charter scrutiny through the use of the notwithstanding clause, and to affirm the federal government's responsibility to uphold charter rights across Canada. And that one is doing rather well, Kits and Cubs. We are at 29,078 signatures, so getting close to that 30,000 mark on that one. So please also share that one broadly. All right, Kits and Cubs, words of wisdom. If you have well, first of all, if you haven't gotten your COVID and flu shots, do get them, because we will have another respiratory illness sort of season. It usually peaks up again somewhere in April, and you want to be ready and have had time to build up the antibodies. So do that. Take a little moment to take care of your health, and make sure that we do our bit to ensure that our hospitals are not overrun. And when you do, if you have the luxury of taking a nap, as I am about to do, because I am very, very tired now, please do that. It's a good thing. Naps are good. Naps are very good. All right, Kits and Cubs, it could be a tough world out there, so please be kind to and gentle with yourself. And can I have a little audience participation, please? At the count of 3, Mr. Beaver, please cue the cock in 1, 2, 3. Ah, lovely. And yes, I see you here, Kit Saucy. By the way, it's 5:06 and I can see the sun still. I know it's all uphill from here, kids. It's all uphill from here at Kits and Cubs. The days are getting longer, more sunshine. We're gonna be ending January 1st, and that means we're closer to spring than we were to the start of winter. So all the good stuff, all the good stuff. Just hold on, We're almost there. All right. Since you asked so kindly, here it is. You are listening to a True North Eager Beaver Media Incorporated podcast. The True North Eager Beaver podcasts are proudly brought to you by our founding sponsors, the Misfit Mysteries from Corvid Moon Publishing, your source for science fiction, fantasy, and cozy mysteries featuring a broad diversity of characters. CanadianTarot.com, their uniquely Canadian online eclectic tarot community, and the Peppermaster, hot pepper sauces made from farm-fresh ingredients to thrill your taste buds and expand your mind. We are grateful to the Crier Media Network for its support, Pete Jarvis for our artwork, and Paul Joseph Something for our opening and closing sequence music. Kids and Cubs, a little bit of news of Canadians who make us proud. Really tough first day for Canadians at the Australian Open. Unfortunately, Gabriel Diallo had a terrible draw and got paired up with the world number 3 in the first round. So as good as he is, uh, he got eliminated in the first round. Then we had Felix Auger-Aliassime, who, similar to what happened in the United Cup, had to pull out of his match during it. He seemed to either be cramping or heat or exhaustion or something like this, but he couldn't move around the court anymore. Same thing happened to Marina Stakusic, playing against somebody who had been given a wild card, and she had won the first set 6-1 and looked to be cruising, but it did unfortunately the heat got the best of her too, and she was cramping, and eventually somewhere in the third set she tried her best to try to finish the match no matter what, despite the fact she was cramping unbelievably. I guess she just wanted to make sure that she completed the match totally, but in the very last game after her first serve, that was it. She had no more in the tank, and she just sat down, and that was the end of that. Liam Drexel was in his first Grand Slam tournament, was matched up against someone that was not among the highest ranked, but a solidly ranked player, about the 67th in the world. Drexel is about the 140th, and kind of person that typically doesn't make any mistakes. You have to beat him. Very solid and consistent. So that was 4 out relatively quickly. Fortunately, Victoria Mboko won her first round match, and so did Denis Shapovalov. They're still in, and Leila Fernandez plays today. So 3 we started with 7, I think, and we are down to 3. 2 have advanced to the second round, and 1 is yet to play their first round match. So a bit of a tough one if you're a Canada fan here at the Australian Open to start off the session. Also, Kids and Cubs, Victoria Mboko did play in the final of that tournament against Mira Andreeva, and as would be expected given the rankings, Mboko did lose the final to her, because Andreeva is a top 10 ranked player in the world, and Victoria Mboko is 16th in the world after this tournament, so still very good, but she lost 6-3, 6-1 in the final to Mira Andreeva. But on the upside, Bianca Andreescu, who decided to skip the Australian Open in order to play another tournament, a smaller tournament, to try to maybe get her mojo back and get some wins under her belt, to have some confidence and maybe slowly work your way up rather than just take all these wild cards into the big tournaments when she's not completely ready. But she did go to Bradenton, Florida for a tournament, and she ended up winning it. So this is good for her. She won in the final 6-2 and 7-5 straight sets, and that brings her much closer to being among the top 200 in the world. I think she started around 240th, and that will definitely help her get closer to the top there with that victory. And in golf, there was some good success for some Canadians at the PGA Tour, the Sony Open in Hawaii. Taylor Pendrith, who's ranked 43rd in the world, ended up in 6th place after the end of that tournament. Type of sport that has a lot of people playing every week. So when you finish, when you pick yourself up a top 10, that's always very good. And also in alpine skiing, downhill skiing on, I think it was Friday, if I'm not mistaken. No, Saturday. There was the men's downhill in Wengen in Switzerland. And Cameron Alexander, we've mentioned his name a few times. He's picked up a couple of World Cup medals along the way. Managed to notch a top 10 there, taking 7th place. So good success for him as well. All right, kids and cubs, that's all I've got for you today. And I'm going to say amour et bisous, and we will see you tomorrow. All right, bye. Oh, regular time tomorrow. Regular time tomorrow. Thank you.